I'm John Grafft, and I love Chicago real estate. Between showings, I stop in my favorite places, talk with local business owners, and bring their story to you. This is my Chicago.
Windows make a lot of sense here. And I love that you didn't just do them on the floor beneath, but you have them guiding all the way through. Is this going to be open, or are you going to close this off in between?
We're going to close it off in between.
Okay.
But right now, we had to have it open just for any other rough pipes we have to run up, but yeah.
So I see, it looks like almost all this is a cool shot right here. Adam, we got to make sure we get this before we go. It looks like most of your rough is completely done, right?
Yes.
So what's the next stage of construction for you?
Inspections, my favorite. Because we are a 4-unit residential, we actually have to go through the City of Chicago's Certificate of Occupancy Task Force.
Okay.
So that involves the whole team coming out all at once, and it'll be plumbing, HVAC, new construction, which is looking at framing, and electrical.
So before now, what were your inspections?
Before now, if you do a single family home or 3 units or less, it was just, you would call each trade separately for your rough and inspections. And if you pass that, then you could move on to the next phase, which is, drywalling, insulation, painting, all that stuff. And then you call in the city for your finals.
And so starting from the ground up, what were the stages of inspections that you had? So you had to start with your foundation and then work me through all the way up to where we are today.
So if we do a brand new build like we did here, after the footing and foundation and the excavation, you call for your underground.
Okay.
The plumber comes in and sets all the pipes in for your water and sewer and your waste. The city comes out to inspect that. And if it's all okay, then you can pour your slab, which is the concrete that's, the flat surface. And then after that, you do your masonry, brickwork, or framing. Some people are still doing frame, but
I noticed you wrapped the entire building in brick.
Absolutely.
Great decision instead of doing a split face block. How did you decide how to make that?
in this area in particular, solid brick seems to sell really well.
Okay.
And to a lot of people, it's sturdier.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's necessarily the case anymore with all these new materials.
I don't think anyone wants to seal CMU units every 5 or 8 years and deal with all that. So I love seeing full masonry. That's what everything should be.
I'm glad you agree.
Yeah. So what do we have here? What are we looking at?
So we're looking at the top unit, and this is about 1,700 square feet. It's a simplex. So
1,700.
Right.
Immediately when we pulled into the alley, I noticed this was a bigger building. So we're sitting on like a lot and a half, right?
lot and a half, correct.
What are the plans?
Lucky I have my plans here. So you're looking at 27 from brick to brick, but interior is probably, if you take a foot or two off for brick, you're probably looking at 25 feet width.
Okay.
What's your guide say?
So I have, from stud to stud, I have 25.5.
All right.
So that's good.
So you know you have a foot for each of the walls.
Yeah.
So we got nice thick brick walls here.
Good. And so what's the plan for this room? Looks like we have a huge living room over here.
Absolutely.
And
We're gonna
kitchen over there?
Yes. Kitchen over here. We're gonna have a big island here, fridge, stove, sink right by the window. And you get to see Sears Tower. I still call it the Sears Tower.
Me
I know
too.
it's
Me
the
too.
Willis Tower now.
I love how you have something moving in the background. You know, some people would say, hey, I don't want to look at a highway. But at the same time, the highway provides something that's constantly changing and moving. And since you were far enough where you can't hear it, you just kind of get to enjoy the motion.
Absolutely. I never thought of it that way, but yes.
Yeah. You know, if you're looking at a brick wall or you're looking at this building over here, the building never changes.
Right.
This gives you something that's versatile and non-static. So really good ceiling height here too.
Yeah, it's 10-foot ceilings here.
10 foot on every level?
Every level.
Even the lower level?
Even the garden, yes.
Even the garden. So you guys have a garden here, which I think is a risky thing to do. I think a lot of people would have duplexed down.
Right.
How did you make that decision?
We wanted to have a building that had various price points.
Okay.
So, you know, if you have a garden unit, someone who maybe is starting out, starter home, it's in their price point, so why not?
With 10-foot ceilings, I mean, it wouldn't even feel like a garden. If the lighting,
it wouldn't.
the lighting is good down there, it'll feel great.
Yeah.
And your cans are lined up really well here. What else do we have?
Step this way, we have the first bath,
Okay.
which is a tub and a single sink.
Very standard, like 5x8 bathroom.
Yes.
Toilet, sink, tub, done. Okay.
A bedroom with a nice big closet.
And all these bedrooms seem to be really good size. So that's like 10 feet that way. I don't know if we'll hit something this way. Yeah, I don't know, but that seems to be maybe like this. No, not a chance. But good sized room nonetheless. And you're longer in this direction, so we know that's probably going to be like, I think that's going to be 12.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Is that right? It looks
Yeah.
about 12-ish to me. Really long, good closet here. That's good space. Okay.
Here is where the furnace is going to be.
Okay, so mechanicals right here, and just the furnace, so you don't have your water heater here.
No.
Okay.
There's not enough room.
Yeah.
You have to have the furnace and the return.
You know, most developers would just stick this thing in here somehow and try to make it work and pray that they got passed on inspection. I like that you found another space, and I think you're able to do that because you have the interior width here.
Yes. Good point. Here's the second bedroom. Also a big closet. It's
So
approximately the same size as that room, too.
It looks, yeah, absolutely. It looks like we're in a mirror image of that. Closets on opposite sides. So if we walk through the walls here, this is where that water heater is going, because that's what all this
Exactly.
is set up for.
Tankless water heater, washer dryer side by side. We have enough room for that.
So you have a real mechanical room.
Absolutely.
This is really nice.
Yes, and each panel, each unit's panel is
Electrical
right there.
panel right here.
Yep.
I love that this is in the back of the house too. So when you're up in the front, socializing, doing whatever you do, this is all, it can just be as loud as possible. That's not going to matter.
Exactly.
That's nice. And this is a really good sized room. People like and underestimate, builders underestimate the need for this, because when someone's doing laundry, they want a space. And I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like you could do a countertop here.
We probably could actually.
Easily on this wall.
Yes. A built-in or something.
You could absolutely do something.
Yeah.
You should do that as an upgrade and upcharge for it. Seriously.
Great advice, John.
So we're walking in. This is definitely our primary suite here.
Yes.
And this room, so 14.9 by like 11.5, so good size. And huge closets I see here.
Yes.
Okay. So we got one there, one here, and then we have our suite here.
Yes. We are going to have a freestanding tub here with a little niche in the wall.
Will this be jetted?
No, not
No,
jetted.
just soaking tub.
Just a soaking tub.
Okay.
Double sink here,
Okay.
a shower here, and the toilet here.
So this layout makes perfect sense to me. When I envision this, when you walk into a bathroom, you never want to see the toilet. So left swinging door here covers the toilet. Then you have your soaking tub right to the side, so it's a point that you want to look at. And this is a small thing, but if I'm on the toilet, I have something beautiful to look at, which is the tub.
There you go.
So that's nice. And then you have the double sinks right here.
Yes.
And you have a shower pan right here. So.
This is made from,
What is this? Yeah.
yeah, it's called Ready Tile.
Ready tile?
So this is already pitched and it's custom made, and you just tile right on top.
This is
and
so
that's
easy
it.
for the tile
Absolutely.
guys. So this reduces your labor costs when it comes to tile, because they don't have to do the whole shower bed.
Exactly.
This is nice. And what I mean, I feel like I can. This feels like styrofoam, but it's not.
It's not.
But
It's
it
actually,
does, doesn't
yeah.
it? Like it
it's
has
made
a.
from PVC.
It's PVC.
Yes.
Interesting
it's a form of
texture.
PVC. Yes.
Okay.
It does feel like styrofoam, but it's actually.
I feel like I can just
pretty
lift
sturdy.
this whole thing off. There's no way I could, but like that's as soon as you knock it, you know. But
All
it
of a
really
sudden
has
you're
that look.
Superman,
Yeah,
John.
right. So what are we gonna do for the shower here?
It is not going to be a rain shower, actually. We
Okay.
decided to do. I'm blanking here.
So will you do? You're gonna do a hand shower.
Yes.
And is that going to be, you're going to have water that can go from here and water just here, actually. So you're going to have one place,
Yes.
right?
What do they call it, John? I'm really blanking here.
The hand
It's-
shower?
Yeah, the hand
The rail
shower.
system.
The rail system.
You're going to do a
Thank
rail
you.
system with one here. Okay.
Yes, we're going to do a rail system.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
And I don't know if you can still do this.
Okay.
But I'm blanking if you can or not. But if you can, I think if you had a diverter, you could have a built-in rain head that came out.
Okay. That's surface mounted and not
That's
necessarily, okay.
Exactly, that part's surface mounted, and then the hand shower is just on the side, and you just divert to one or the other, and that way you can give someone that option, because then you still have the forward facing, but then you also still have the hand shower over here,
Right.
and you have both of those options. And what I like about this, I just did this in a unit, is this allows someone to have the rain head without technically having the rain head. So it serves both purposes.
Okay.
Growy makes a real, I think it's like the Starlight package, it's $650, it's the whole setup.
Okay.
Who are using for rough, or who are you using for plumbing fixtures, do you know? Or what brand?
We're using Moen for the whole house.
Moen for everything, okay,
Yeah.
great. I bet they'd create something like that.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
I'll look into it. Thank you for the suggestion, John.
Yeah, of course.
I always like to have a broker's eye for these types of things, because a lot of times as a builder, We lack the imagination. Not all of us, but some of us, me included.
Well, you guys put the deal together, you find all the moving pieces, but as brokers, we're sitting in these spaces, walking through them every single day.
Right.
And I'd say just as importantly, I learned what people don't like. And so I can
Yeah.
tell you all day what people like. What's really important is this will not work. I know we found some glass blocks somewhere else, and that was an example of that.
Right.
And it's like, on that level, might work, may not. And you just have you have some small windows of it, but if for everything else, I think you're fine. Like I said, maybe replace them. I don't think so, because no one's gonna not buy your place because of 2 windows.
Right.
Right? But I know on your next project, you're never gonna use them.
We're never using them again.
Cool.
And we are actually going to put in fireplaces in each of the units. Just a little electric fireplace. So there's
Pop
a
a switch
focal
on.
point. Yeah,
Yeah.
so there's a focal point. And I know that because the space is so big, as soon as someone walks in through the door, I think it would look nice. What are your thoughts?
I don't think you so it's hard.
Okay.
Because you're at the 400, like somewhere in the $400,000 price point, right? And usually a fireplace creates a focal point, but it also defines your entire room.
Got it.
So when I'm laying out my space and I'm figuring out where furniture goes, I have to put something over here because the TV has to be above this wall. Now that being said, that's usually when a fireplace, it comes out about 2 feet. You're gonna come with a low profile fireplace that's electric, that's just gonna be tight, snugged into this wall. Because of your price point, I think it's a good move.
Okay.
And I like the low maintenance idea of it because it's electric. If we were talking about a different price point, basically $550 and above, I'd say forget about it. You can always add an Ignis fireplace, an ethanol fireplace.
Okay.
And you can always add the electric later, make it, stub it out,
Okay.
make sure that it's possible. But in that price point, and here's the thing too, we have the width here.
Yeah.
Because we have the width, you have so many options, it's not a big deal. But when you're dealing on a standard 25-foot lot, you're like, okay, well, you decided where my TV goes. Thanks for making that decision for me.
Exactly.
Right? And then it protrudes into the room for 2 feet, so you don't want it. As long as it's close
Yeah, it'll be a very low profile.
and elevated, right?
Yes.
It'll look great. It'll look beautiful. And then, of course, don't put a area where your TV can only fit like this is the set size for your television as well.
No,
Developers
no.
are still doing that. I was just in a place that was built, and I'm like, why are you doing this?
Like it's niched in.
Yeah,
like,
it's niched in. You're like, come
wow.
on, this isn't 1990.
No, it'll be a flat wall.
Okay, okay, cool. So there are so few women in construction.
Yes.
If you want to expand on that, there's so few minority women in construction.
Yeah.
How did you start in this business?
I was born into it.
Okay.
My dad started in construction when he was, 16 or 18 years old in Hong Kong.
In Hong Kong.
Yeah,
Hong Kong is a very interesting place.
it is.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of changes recently, but back in the 60s, it was a hub of growth. So when he got there, he was a young man, and the first job that he got was in construction on a job site, worked his way up. And when he immigrated to America in the late 70s, that was really the only thing he was qualified for.
Okay.
Yeah, so he would do.
Did he come here without speaking any English?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's amazing.
isn't that crazy?
I can't picture that. You see it, you heard about it, whether you're Italian, whatever it was, but coming here and knowing nothing
Yeah.
and figuring it out. Did he come into New York or the coast or?
We came, I believe they came in through Seattle.
Okay.
And then they had a friend here in Chicago, so
Okay.
this was the final destination.
Got it.
Yeah, and it was the brutal winter of the blizzard of like December of '78, January '79.
My dad talks to me about that blizzard. He said he was able to jump off of his roof
Oh my God.
into snow.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
My dad said that some of the neighbors paid them, to shovel snow off the roof, the flat roofs, because it was, you could hear.
You were afraid of the
beams.
roof caving in.
Yeah,
I heard the
absolutely.
same exact thing.
Yeah. So he started out doing that as a young man and immigrated here and started his own business officially in '84.
Okay.
And
So he'd already been here for 15 or 20 years?
By then, yeah, since '78, yeah.
Okay.
And it grew from there. So I grew up in the business, being first generation, daughter of an immigrant, and the oldest child. I took everything seriously, and so I still do. And I think it just was natural that I took over. He's still in the business. He's got so much knowledge and experience, but I think he's in safe hands. I hope he's in safe hands with me, taking over eventually, yeah.
So I know a lot of immigrant parents never want their children to go into the business they were in.
Right.
They want you to go to college, do that whole path. Did you have a similar experience, or did your father always want you to be part of this?
My parents were very liberal in that they said you have to make your own choices in life. And so they let me go my own way. I went to college, got my degree, was in IT consulting for a while, and then the tech bubble burst.
Okay.
And that's when I was like, well, I might as well make myself useful. And I started helping them out full time.
So you started a new chapter of your life.
Yeah.
When was that?
That was probably in the early 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah, 2001, 2002. No, actually, it was probably 2003 because I'd been working in IT consulting for at least 2 to 3 years. And then by then, you know, the bubble burst. And I went into real estate with my dad. We'd always been house hacking, you know, and I just didn't know what it was called back then when I was a kid. We would buy 3 flats, renovate them, live in one of the units, and rent out the rest. And that would pay for the mortgage.
That's my dream. Yeah.
Is that the dream for you?
Well, we were talking off camera, and I was telling you how we got a new place.
Right.
And that's a holdover.
Okay.
So that's a place for a year to figure out our next step, because we're trying to find a building where we can do exactly that.
Real estate's where it's at, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's not. I don't know. I don't know if it is. Tech might be a better space, but like, what's tech and what are you doing tech? Everyone has a tech job now. I love it.
Yeah.
Like someone works for Walgreens. Like, I'm in tech. I'm like, what do you mean?
What exactly do you do? What's your job title?
Yeah, it's like consultant now. Everyone
Yes.
used to be a consultant. Now everyone's in tech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is true. That was my generation. Consultant. Yeah. I was an IT consultant.
So what was it like having a father that was in this? How many times did you move when you were younger?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say at least 9 to 11 times.
Wow.
And it was always in the neighborhood or in the neighborhood over.
Yeah.
And these were, you know, these weren't nice gentrified areas, you know, so it was kind of rough. And
Where are we right now?
we're in Bridgeport.
We're in Bridgeport.
Born and raised here.
What was this area like when you were growing up?
It had some issues. It was, you know, it's salt of the earth people, but I think the older generation weren't very receptive of new immigrants at the time.
Okay.
It's changed drastically over the years.
What was the primary ethnicity here then?
Back then it was Irish and Italian, and a lot of Asians were moving into the community because we're literally next to Chinatown.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there were some upheavals, but that smoothed over, and I think this next generation, we're carving the right path.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever experience any racism or anything like that?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely. Blatant.
Yeah.
I remember, so we lived about 6 blocks that way, and you know, I went to school here, my primary school was here. I remember getting chased a couple of times.
Okay.
Like I would have to run. All of a sudden I'm like,
Who was
oh.
chasing you?
It was some neighborhood kids.
Okay.
That
Boys or girls?
It was boys.
Yeah, that's weird.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
But I grew up in a different era. Back then it was acceptable in this neighborhood to throw out some racial, you know, slurs and, you know,
Well,
it'd be okay.
I feel like this neighborhood is a little frozen in time.
Yes,
sometimes.
Sometimes.
It feels that way.
But it's changing. It's
Yes.
changing drastically, and
I mean, you're part of it now.
yes. And that's what I'm proud of.
Yeah.
Yeah, my husband is from Iowa originally, and when he moved here, he was taken aback at, you know, some of the old-fashioned ways of some of the neighbors, but I said, this is just how they are, and I think it's changing for the better.
So living here, growing up here, what's your favorite part about living here, and why have you continued to live here? A lot of people, they have this idea of leaving the neighborhood, of
Yeah.
advancing, getting out, whatever that means, and then you have people that stick to a particular area because they want to see it develop, they want to be a part of the change. What's your opinion?
I think it's an excellent question. And if you ask a few of the second generation Bridgeporters, I think a lot of them saw the value of living close to the loop, being close to all the highways. You're still in the city, but it still feels like a neighborhood.
Okay.
And property value here, from a financial standpoint, has always held up pretty well. It's
Yes.
been steady here. And all the neighbors know each other. Whether you get along is a different question, but at least everyone knows each other here. And it's a close-knit community. The second generation that have lived here, I think also they see the value of wanting to be that sea of change. You know, you have a lot more restaurants here.
Yeah.
A lot of them are second generation.
Mm-hmm.
Their parents started out, and now the kids have taken over. And I think we're heading in the right direction. So I'm proud to have stayed. Surprised I stayed. I did move away for a little bit. I studied abroad in England for a year.
So that's where the primary school came from. You said primary, and I was like, that's not an English, that's not an American thing.
I guess, yeah, you're right. I didn't really think of that. Yeah, that's a good catch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I should have said elementary school or grade school, right?
Yeah, either way, but not primary. Are we talking about bedrooms here? What's going on? No. You can't say master anymore. It's got to be primary.
I know. That's why I was like,
I still say it all the time, and I'm just caught. And the other day, a broker was like, that's not PC. And I was like, I've been saying that for 30 years. It's not just going to change overnight.
Right.
And I also think the reason it's being changed is disingenuous. There's no real change happening. You're just changing a word and acting like it's going to change the industry. It's like, why don't you focus on low-income housing some more, or homelessness, or some real issues in housing, and then we can talk about changing words that don't really matter.
That's actually a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I catch myself saying master.
Me too.
And I'm like, oh, no. Large? What are you?
It's primary. Primary is the word.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. And then there's secondary, and then tertiary, and then whatever the fourth one is.
The fourth one is. Luckily, you don't have a fourth bedroom here.
Yeah, there we go. We don't have that problem.
Yeah.
So what was it like working with your parents? So my dad was in real estate, and we couldn't agree on anything. Mm-hmm. So I walked away a long time ago because it would have never worked. And I always wonder, when I see someone that's stuck into a business, how do you make that work?
A lot of effort, believe me. My dad and I are very similar in personality, and we can have like knockdown, drag out, screaming matches about how we should do something. But at the end of the day, him and I can also come together and hash it out. And that's the only reason it's worked for us. My brother, 6 years younger than me, did work for my dad for a few summers, and he just couldn't cut it. He was like, I can't deal with it.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, and it was personality clashing, and but I think if your personalities can mesh well, you can work through it. And it is hard, because it's hard to turn it off.
Yeah.
Not only do I work with my parents in the business of construction, I also have a development company with my husband. So it's like from all sides.
Yeah, and you don't turn it off.
No.
You can leave this job site, you and your dad butt heads because you put those glass block windows in.
Exactly.
And then you have to go home and have dinner with them.
Right.
And that can carry over. And I imagine if you're still in the neighborhood, he's still in the neighborhood.
Yes.
So I bet you have family meals.
We do. We rent the apartment above my parents.
Okay, so
yeah,
yes.
We stay close to home,
this
literally.
Is seriously, you guys are literally in the same house.
Yes, yeah.
What's that like? What's that like living above your parents?
It's actually nice. They give us our privacy. It's separate apartments.
Do you have a floor in between you?
No, they have a duplex below us, and we have the simplex above.
Okay.
Yeah, but my husband loves it. He jokes around because he's like, your mom cooks me lunch. And I'm like, where's my lunch? But my mom's smart. She's like, I'll treat my son-in-law very well, so he can deal with
He's
my
on
daughter.
my side.
Yeah, exactly. It works out.
Don't ever tell Una that, because part of our plan is to do the same thing. Her parents come here, and we live in the same building. But I'm also like, I think this might not be a good idea. I'm like, how about we move into the same building, like a high-rise, and they can get a unit, and we can get a unit on separate floors.
You don't want to be next door to them, or like
no,
right below
I don't want to share any walls. Not at all.
No, we're very, very respectful of each other. And luckily, my parents don't just barge in. Like, she usually calls and is like, can I come up? I want to ask you a question. I'm like, of course, like very respectful.
Okay. How do you make that work? How do you drop work when you get home? There's a interview with the Pepsi CEO. She's a famous woman, very good CEO. And she says she leaves her crown at the door when she walks in.
Yeah.
Crown's an interesting way to put it, but she is a CEO. She's making millions of dollars a year, so she deserves her crown. But Una loves that saying, because she's like, we have to drop it as soon as we're done. And now with work from home, we're always at home.
Yeah.
But sometimes, for me, especially more so than her, like I have a stressful day for whatever reason, but that stressful day was 10 seconds ago, and now I need to transition. How do you do that when you're dealing with family?
It's hard. We have some rules set in place.
Okay.
So it's like at the dinner table, let's just try our hardest to not talk about work. You can do it as soon as you get home. That's what I've taken to doing. As soon as we get home, I'll have any last minute meetings with my dad really quick, or with my husband about stuff. But if we're eating and if we're clocked out, we try to stay clocked out. Okay. Obviously it's hard, but you have to carve out time for work, and then the rest is to enjoy each other, because it would just make life a living hell to be constantly in work. And there's no demarcation.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's a great way of putting it. I've never thought of it. I've never used that word or thought of that word, and that's exactly what it is.
Primary and demarcation.
So getting into this business, what's it been like starting? I mean, you had construction experience sort of because you grew up in it.
Right.
But you probably knew, did you know fundamentals?
I knew the fundamentals, but I'm not the one, moving 2x4s or anything, but I am the one signing the paychecks, project managing, speaking with, dealing with vendors, with clients, with the city, with permits, with inspectors, with architects. So I did all the administrative stuff, and I still do that.
Okay.
It's only now that I'm starting to gain more confidence in certain things, construction and technical related.
What's it been like through that process? How have you gained your confidence?
It's been a steep learning curve. I constantly doubt myself.
Okay.
Not only because I'm female, but because I think a lot of construction folks view me as young. I'm not young, but they think I am.
Well, Asians are always young.
Until we're not, all of a sudden it's like a snap of a finger. What happened to her? It's funny you say that. My husband jokes about that.
Well, Asian don't raisin, black don't crack. There's a bunch of funny things you could say.
God.
But it's like, there's some truth to it.
Yeah, it's because I don't know about Una, but stay out of the sun, that was.
Oh, Una's always in the sun.
She is?
Oh, yeah.
Lucky.
And her mom uses bleaching cream in Korea because she's an islander. She's Hawaiian, her mom.
Okay.
So she moved from Hawaii to Korea, where she's, of course, not accepted because she's not naturally Korean. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't realize that racism exists everywhere.
Colorism is bad in the Asian culture.
Absolutely, colorism, yes. And so bleaching products are huge there.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if anyone's seen a picture of Sammy Sosa lately, but he went from his color to Michael Jackson's color.
I have.
And her mom went from this beautiful dark skin to light skin because she's just colored her whole body. And I saw her after a bleaching session once.
Oh man.
And her mom, her English isn't great, but I always speak my mind. And I'm like, you have to stop this. This doesn't matter. Because her face was like it burns all over. You could see it because the process right afterwards of the healing process is not pretty.
Oh,
you look like a monster. And you're like, why are you doing this? And it's to be accepted in Korea. And after being there for 20-something years, she still feels that.
She's still viewed as an outsider.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because she still has whatever features that Koreans know are not Korean.
Right.
And when we go places, we'll go to Jeongbu or H Mart or any of these Korean places or King Spa. There's Koreans speaking around her all the time about her.
Not realizing that
she can understand them. And they're always asking, what do you think she is? Where do you think she is? Yeah.
I get that a lot. Growing up, my mom was always like, stay out of the sun. She's very light complected. Mm-hmm. My dad, on the other hand, is very dark.
Okay.
And I'm kind of a mixture of both. And growing up, it was always stay out of the sun. And I thought it was because of wrinkles, but no, it's because you're already dark enough.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you kidding me?
So that her dad says that to her, and this isn't the best thing to say, but when Una gets dark, her dad's like, you look poor.
Yes. And my mom said that's because, women of the house, and I think it actually is across most racial lines,
it is.
Right?
Yeah.
Folks that worked in the field were darker.
Yeah.
And it's the same in the Chinese culture.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And then you come to America, everyone wants to be tan,
yes.
outdoor all the time.
LA tan.
Fitness
You're like,
this, fitness that.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I don't subscribe to that. And it's taken a long time to fight that.
I bet.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. We've spent so long on race. Hold on, we got to get off race here.
Okay,
This was not the point of this. But it's funny how we can talk about it because I experienced what her parents have gone through and what Una's gone through.
Yeah.
And you see it, it's real. The color, it's colorism.
It is. My husband was shocked when he would hear my mom say stuff like, Ada's too dark. And he's like, what?
What's his ethnicity?
Iowa. No, he's Sicilian and Irish.
Oh, so he fits in perfect here.
Yes, he does, yeah. Yeah, it's funny you say that. He joined the 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗘𝗦𝗢𝗐.
What's that?
Which is the old neighborhood Italian American club.
Okay.
And he loved their gym. He liked going there. It was quiet.
It's like a social club, yeah?
Yeah, it's a social club, and he paid his dues. And he was walking around with his sponsor, who's my neighbor. He's a wonderful Italian man, so sweet. And when he was being introduced, he made sure to say, this is Ada's husband, Ada Lee, who's Chinese, who's my neighbor. To all the guys, be on your best behavior. Don't say anything stupid.
Got it.
Yeah. That's how it is.
And on the flip side of that, if you drive around here, you're like, this is a neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like I've lived in Lincoln Park, Gold Coast, Old Town, Lakeview since I was 17 in Chicago. None of those places feel like neighborhoods. They do.
Right.
They absolutely feel like a great place to live. I love them. But I don't think the neighbors know each other half the time.
Yeah.
They move in and they move out. They're
Right.
there for schools. They're there for status. They're there because it's a nice place to live. But no one gets to know each other. I don't think they care about that as much. You do see that in particular neighborhoods, but not on the same level that you feel it here.
In Bridgeport, I can easily count on, I mean, I know all of my neighbors on my side of the block, and they know us, and we keep an eye on each other. I do like that about Bridgeport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always got that vibe here. Woman contractor.
Yeah.
How is it like dealing with the subs?
So it depends. If I go into a situation where they don't know that I've been in this for at least, I'd say 17, 20 years now I've been doing this. If I started out in my early 20s, I'm 42, edit that out. So I've been doing this for quite some time. A lot of them that don't know who I am will be a little more flippant. But the ones that have worked with me over the years, I get mad respect.
Yeah.
Yeah. You always have to treat your subs well, especially if they're good subs. I pay on time. I'm very transparent, and we help each other out. And that's how I, build these relationships. And some of them are relationships that my father. I almost called him Baba, which is Chinese for dad.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
What's mom?
Mom is Mama.
Mama.
Yeah.
Okay. And Baba?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if a lot of these subs are guys that have known my dad. And so that respect translates. It trickles down to me as well. A lot of them love the fact that a female, the daughter is taking over. Yeah.
What's the hardest part of doing what you do?
Safety of the employees. That's weird, but I always
Really?
have this. That's why when you got into your little fender bender, I was like, is everybody okay? That was my first reaction.
Yeah.
Safety of employees, I know that sounds silly. You can edit that out. Let me think of a better. The most difficult thing is probably to be taken seriously.
So I was wondering if you were going to say something like that. Because this is just a 99% man business.
Yes, it is.
And it's also a strong, masculine, show-off, 𝗕𝗢𝗢𝗞𝗦, it's a lot of masculinity.
It is. It is.
Like, I can do it, I can do this, I can do that. No one ever says they can't do anything. And I feel like a lot of those masculine traits harm the business in a lot of ways. Because instead of owning up to say, I can't do something, I don't know how to do it, let's figure it out together, I got it.
And then they screw it up.
And then you find out later.
Right.
And any business is better with multiple heads and multiple people thinking together.
Absolutely.
And if you take a certain approach that a older or more set in their way contractor doesn't want, I could see some serious conflict.
Yeah, and I've had that. I've had my run-ins with people that say, I know what I'm doing, and they don't because we didn't pass the inspection. So I'm like, clearly you didn't know what you were doing, and we were trying to tell you how to do it. So one and done. I'm never working with you again.
Yeah.
I don't shy away from confrontation, but I also don't like confronting if I don't have to. I just don't give you business anymore. And as a general contractor, I can do that. So the good ones learn to adapt. They learn to be collaborators, and they're good at what they do. And I don't have to, tell them what to do. Usually the more experienced ones are always learning new things. They keep up with the times, and they're not sexist pigs. So that's a plus. Yeah.
So you mentioned you're also head of a development group. You want to talk about that?
Sure. Trying not to do too much in Chicago anymore, but edit that out.
No, we're not editing anything. So
this is all going out.
Yeah, it's all long form. All
going out on the YouTube. So my husband and I, and on certain projects, it's my parents as well. The more the merrier. But this project is part of a partnership with family friends. So they offered up the land, and we're building it up, and we have a construction loan together. So in that case, this is one of our many developments. The other one we're doing is with friends. That's a development in Bronzeville. It's more a rehab.
Okay.
Yeah. But with that one, that's turning out to be a little harder than we thought, because we didn't realize going into it the amount of work that it would take, because it was a gut rehab. It was an old sandstone building. It's gorgeous, beautiful bones, but there's a lot of work.
In my experience in real estate, I'll pick new construction over a rehab any day of the week, unless I'm living in it.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right?
Because then you could.
Well, then I can deal with the hardships.
Yeah.
I can deal with the problems. But I've never worked with a developer on a rehab that didn't take minimum 3 months longer.
Exactly.
That went well over budget. Because, oh, look what we discovered here, and oh, we opened this up, and we didn't think about this, and we have to underpin that, and
all kinds of, you open a can of worms.
Yes.
Learn that lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah. I usually do new construction development. We usually source out land, and in this neighborhood in particular, it's usually infill.
Okay.
You're not going to find large plots of land anymore in Bridgeport.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of the bigger developers have already snatched those up, and they're doing massive townhomes, condo buildings. And a lot of them probably take more environmental cleanup too, because they're old manufacturing sites.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
You mentioned passive investing in other areas of the country. Tell me more about that.
We started venturing into that because it's a lot of work to do active investing, being a landlord, being a developer. So we wanted to diversify our portfolio, and we got into passive investing with operators that have a good track record, that have proven themselves. So they'll go in and buy a value add multi-family home. And I'm talking larger apartment buildings.
30 plus units.
30 plus units, and we usually focus on the Sun Belt states, Texas, North Carolina, South Carolina, where there's an influx of new population growth because industry is going there too.
Mm-hmm.
We start out doing that. We are actually, one of our operators, one of the funds that we invested in, they're selling. So they're going to do a full cycle. They're selling the building, and then we'll get to see the benefits of that.
What will your returns look like?
So we were getting about monthly returns too. So we were getting some dividends on that. And that was probably about 8%. But this actual, once they sell, the return will probably be at, say, 15%.
Okay.
I mean, it's not as high as some, but it's also a lower risk multifamily,
Yeah.
It's not value add, so we knew we were going to make money in the end.
So let's use round numbers for anyone that doesn't know what we're talking about. So someone looked for a multifamily building, they found it, that person has the promote, or he's the syndicator, and then he found a group of people that was willing to invest in the project. So let's say maybe it's $100,000 from 20 people, something like that, and then you guys bought the building. Right? And then you guys maybe fixed it up and then stabilized it, which means rented it, got it to a 95 plus occupancy or so, and then went out to the secondary market to find an investor who wants an armchair investment, who can just buy this completely finished, done.
Not have to worry about,
doing anything.
Exactly.
Right? And just wants a stable return, whatever that may be, for X amount of years. Do you know what the cap rate was on that building?
I do not.
Okay.
We'd have to talk to my partner, my husband, who's the finance guy.
Okay.
And he knew, he was the one that looked at, he does all the due diligence. He looks at all the numbers. He looks at, when you're doing syndication or when you're investing in funds, a lot of people overlook the upfront management fee, because these syndicators don't do it for free.
Yeah.
Right? These operators.
And
so you have to look at that.
And so the syndicator, the way to look at that is, that's the person who puts this whole thing together.
Right.
And oftentimes they're the most rewarded.
Exactly.
Yes. And so everyone wants to be in that position.
Right.
And it is easier in those Sun Belt states. It can be done here too, but it's like for the last 10 years, I feel like there's been a stronger market of that here, and you're seeing less opportunities in Chicago than you would in those areas. Like you said, industry is going there.
Right.
Through this pandemic, we've learned that people are moving to those states, and people are leaving denser urban areas.
Right. They're looking for more green space, outdoor space, home office. Yeah.
Which has been provided a lot of opportunities here. I'm happy with it. Like, get all these people that are fair weather fans, let them leave Chicago. It's
You're
good.
like, get out.
Yeah.
Give me back my city.
You know you were leaving anyway, just it's about time.
That's awesome.
So how did you get involved in syndication or passive investing?
We wanted to, like I said, diversify our real estate portfolio because it was taking up so much of our time finding.
This is a job.
This is a full-time
It's
job.
a full-time job.
Yeah.
You can't be a part-time developer.
No.
Yeah.
It's morning, noon, and night. Yeah. So we wanted to also have passive income and have some generational wealth. it's just a lot of people, I think, don't realize that real estate is a good way to build generational wealth. It's also a lot of tax incentives.
Yeah.
There's depreciation. You know, a lot of folks don't realize that, or if they do, they don't take advantage of it. But
My favorite part of owning real estate has been depreciation.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, it offsets. Yeah.
It offsets everything.
Exactly.
It's like, how much, yeah, taxes are pretty low until you ever have to sell that building. Then everything comes back calling. But how did you get into it? Like, I mean, were you watching a late night TV program? like how did you find out about syndication of these things? How did you get involved?
We started out listening to some podcasts, and then from there we found, like, okay, who is the most trusted name in this area, in this arena? And we found a few people. Joe Fairless was one of them, and at the time he was doing a mentorship kind of deal. So you paid a mentorship fee, and then he would kind of take you under your wing and teach you the ropes of this. And then it snowballed from there, and then we got into Hunter Thompson, he's my favorite.
Hunter Thompson is the best one of the best authors ever, but who is this Hunter Thompson?
Not Fear and Loathing.
No, not Fear and Loathing?
No. He is the head of ASIM Group, or Cash Flow Connections, and he's this great passive investor who is, in my opinion, he's really good at what he does. He's purely numbers guy, and I love that. Yeah. So we started out doing that, and then now my husband's in his masterclass program.
Okay.
That's how we got started in that, and now we're actually starting our own fund. You know, we have our own syndication. We started doing that, where we would invest alongside our investors, and those investors are accredited or sophisticated, meaning they have a certain net worth, or they also already own real estate besides their primary residence.
Okay.
If you start advertising your syndication or your fund to outsiders, regular folks, then you are technically selling a security, and you have to be part of, you have to go through SEC, which we don't want to, we didn't want to do that. So by, advertising, or not even advertising, by working with only accredited or sophisticated investors, we're able to do the syndication, and now we want to take the next leap into doing our own fund, which is pooling money together, our money, because we always want to have our skin, we want to have skin in the game.
I would never invest anything with anybody if they weren't putting their own money in it.
Exactly. Why would you trust me, you know? And this is a trust game. All of this is.
Real estate, people don't realize that. Like, it is so trust-based.
Yeah.
Because I want to know what you're doing, and I am relying on your expertise and your signal to know what to do next. Like that building that you guys are selling, or that project that you're a part of that is selling, you're like, well, how do we know if this makes sense to sell? Should we just hold on to it and have the income every month for perpetuity? Right. Or should we cash out right now and get 50% return on our money, or whatever it is? And you need that person on the ground, that syndicator, or the person who's
the operator, to be like, no, now is the time.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's a high and low to everything.
Yes.
And you want to get in low and get out high, right?
Yeah.
And that's so hard to do. Timing is the hardest thing ever.
Yes.
I don't care if it's the stock market or the real estate market. Timing is very difficult, and especially in real estate, because this isn't a liquid business. You can't just snap your fingers or hit a button and there's the trade. It's like, you want to sell? Okay, I'll let in 6 months maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
There's always a lag time.
Yeah.
There's always a process to it.
And if you're a partner and you want to liquidate your position, we're just going to get killed there, because some partner's going to probably absorb what you want, but it's not going to be at the terms you would prefer.
Absolutely. You're at a disadvantage.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you want to start your own fund now. What's that look like?
So much work.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a whole other ball of wax.
So you're finding money here and projects here.
Actually, no. All of the funds that we're looking at, we're trying to find operators that are in diversified portfolios. So it's not going to be just multifamily. It's not going to be just mobile home parks. It's going to be things that are asset classes that can withstand some of these turbulent times.
Okay.
So they're going to be operators that are that focus on industrial, some in manufacturing. That way, the highs and the lows won't be big waves.
Yeah.
They'll be more steady.
I read today there are developers buying single-family homes in Bensonville that are worth, I don't know what they're worth, but they're paying millions of dollars for them because they're going to replace it with storage.
So I've heard that they now are trying to do warehouses.
Warehouses are supposed to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
I know someone through someone who invested $2 million and sold it to Amazon for $26 million.
You're kidding.
Nope. 1 year hold.
It's because of the pandemic, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Consumer goods.
Yep.
I mean, I heard that now the wait time just to get boba, the little boba,
Yeah.
it's taking forever because of shipment issues, cargo unloading,
Everything.
customs,
Furniture, lumber. The price of lumber has gone up 40%.
Is that scary?
Yeah.
Which is why I'm like, okay, I think we should pump the brakes on developments in our area, and we'll wait and see. And in the meantime, we can pivot to start our own fund in other parts of the country
Yeah.
that are expanding and growing, not contracting.
So you live minutes from here,
I do.
and it's hard managing a project.
Yes.
How are you going to do it states away? That always scares me so much. It's why I've never participated in anything like you've discussed. I'm like, I'm here, I know this market, I can invest in this market, I feel comfortable, but I also feel like I'm holding myself back because with the right people, with the right trust, you can be in emerging markets in areas where there is more upside.
Well, that's why I say passive investing, we spoke off camera, is a very small community.
Yeah.
The trusted operators are known. It's a known quantity because those are the people that have proven time and time again that they can start a deal and finish a deal and see it through a cycle. So those are the people that you want to work with. And it's about due diligence, it's about trust, and doing site visits. So we've hopped on planes and just gone to, before the pandemic, it was easier to travel, but we would go to the sites and look at the assets we were investing in.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was a very hands-on approach, boots on the ground. Sometimes that's what it takes.
What do you think about doing that here locally, maybe in some suburbs or surrounding areas?
I think suburbs, yeah, especially changing of the times, like you said. There's warehouses and storage units that are that we'll need for the future. But yeah, that would be the only asset I think I would look into. In terms of housing, I feel like we have a good saturation right now in the city.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? You're a broker.
I think it depends where you are.
Okay.
I think everyone wants single-family housing. I think multifamily is a very good opportunity. I think multifamily living is a very good opportunity. So if I want to buy a condo right now, condo prices are pretty good. You can find something, especially if you're looking at studios or one bedrooms, you can pick those up for nothing right now. A lot of people have left that market. And if someone wants to get into real estate easily at a lower price point, you could spend 20 grand as a down payment, you could own a condo and you could have a few hundred dollars of cash flow every month. And that's not a lot, but it's about building up equity, like you said. So, I mean, I got into a project. My first condo I ever bought for myself to live in, I paid $151 or $148, something like that for. I sold it for $215, no big deal. But I sold it like a decade later, and I made $300 to $400 a month that entire decade, right? So that's nice, small amount of money, but it was something. And then I had that asset sitting there the whole time. I'm putting a place on the market this week that I bought when I was 22. I paid $22,500 for it, and I'll sell it for like $135.
Okay.
And that's made me $350 to $400 a month this entire period as well. So I think condos are great for people getting into. Me personally now, I'm taking all of my money out of condos and I'm trying to put them into larger projects because I want more economies of scale and I want something that's more controllable because condos, I'm open to special assessments, and I don't have control.
Yeah.
So I actually like the passive investing world, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that later, off camera. But I'm very interested in that because I know it makes sense, and I understand the business enough. I don't want to operate it like you're talking about.
Which is why we partner with the operators.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like I could totally operate it and put it all together if I was using other people's money and there was less on the risk and if I knew what the upside was.
Right.
In Chicago, it just seems hard to put those deals together.
It is.
Yeah.
Which is why a lot of our passive investment deals are out of state.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's, I'd hate to say it, less red tape.
Yeah. Well, Chicago, let's go build. I was talking to someone yesterday who's been building a place in California for like 5 years or something. It was supposed to be apartments. Now it's going to be condos, he thinks. But in California, they measure everything in years. So it's like, how many years is it going to take to get my permit? How many years is it going to take to sell this project? Not months like here or most places.
And there's still population growth over there. So
I don't know anymore.
No, not anymore.
Why would anyone live in California anymore? What is
the weather?
Sure, there's lots of places where there's great weather. I don't know. The government's draconian. The taxes are absurd.
Yes.
And like New York failed the pandemic, California failed the pandemic. I don't think Chicago did a great job with the pandemic. We've seen our government fail us in so many different ways where you're like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Right? And I love here, I'm not leaving. During the pandemic, you and I rode 20 planes or flew 20 planes to go look at other parts of America to consider moving. So I was like, if there's any time to do it, it's now. And we just fell more in love with Chicago.
Really?
It really reinforced our love for this city because our architecture is great, our parks are great, our lakefront looks like an ocean on a good day. Like we have every single component here. I just think Chicago gets written off relatively easily. We have terrible politics, we have terrible taxes. That being said, this is the cleanest city I've ever been to.
That's true. We're by a great lake.
The city runs well, it works well. It's just if you want to let the politics get to you, then you're not going to like it. But that's, I don't know, New York's worse, California's worse, so what else do you have? We're talking about, like, we went to Austin twice, loved Austin. Before there was even like this Austin boom, we were already talking about moving there. And we went there twice and I'm just like, I don't know if I can picture living here. Like, I don't even own a car here, okay? You can't do that in Austin. You have this little city like Denver, and you're like, this is great, but it's not a city. And I like city. And if I want to go to the mountains, okay, I got to drive 30 minutes to the mountains. My wife and I laugh all the time because we're like hiking in the snow. I'm like, these are mountains, okay?
That's
this
your
is
cardio right
Yeah,
there.
this is serious snow. This is hard. This is winter. What do we need to hike for? Or we'll go from the Gold Coast and we'll walk to Ukrainian Village. And we're like, this is a nice hike, okay?
Right.
These aren't walks, these are hikes. Everything's a hike now. And I like a
hilarious.
city where I can jump on a bike and then grab a taxi and then grab an Uber. I can even get a water taxi, and you can do all that in Chicago. And I think there's a lot of things that, I think a lot of people don't know how to use the city.
That's true.
I remember my first time in New York, and I didn't like it at all because I didn't have a good guide because there was no one there. I was figuring it out. Didn't work out well for me at all. Chicago is a city where if you learn it, there's so much to do here.
It's a city of neighborhoods too,
Yes.
which I like. I appreciate that.
Yes, and you can go and you can get the best food at 2 a.m. off Devon, or you can go to Chinatown and get really good food. You can go to Little Italy and get really good food. You can go to actual neighborhoods to get different ethnic groups, or you can just go to Randolph and go to a more higher end, crazy, awesome, good restaurant, or you can just go to Ukrainian Village and get some of the best Japanese you've ever had. Like, the neighborhood doesn't necessarily define the food, but you can go to a particular neighborhood knowing you're going to get good food.
Right.
And at the same time, you can go to another neighborhood that you would never realize would have this type of food. And I think Chicago's a huge food city. I mean, the only place that rivals it is New York, and then maybe Portland because they have all the food carts and trucks, and it's...
I've never been to Portland. How is it?
Portland, Oregon's great.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. I would consider moving to Portland because it has a real city feel, but it has all the nature surrounding it.
It's true.
And you're on the coast.
You're on the Pacific Ocean right there.
Yeah. This has been so much fun. I think I talked more than you, which is the first time, but we got...
I'm looking at Adam like, really?
we got a little carried away on a few topics I'm passionate about, but I really appreciate your time. I really want to talk to you because you did the Mars project, and that's where I saw your work, and I thought it was so cool, and I love Mars, and I love everything that they're a part of, and I wanted to share your story.
Thank you so much for reaching out.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you. This is great.